It's my
Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Hi.
We have Jake in the house. We're very excited today. So
sorry about being a little bit late. We were having some.
It was Jake's fault.
Oh, we were having issues with our camera, but hopefully we'll be okay.
So real quick, what I want to do is just this is the second time that we had Jake. So I just want to do a proper intro for him.
Yes.
So this is, like I said, our second interview, and we're going to talk about future progression. It's really interesting to me. And so I just want to welcome back to Deep Dives in the Desert today. We have the pleasure of welcoming back someone we really look forward to speaking with, not just as an incredible hypnosis practitioner, but really all around just great human being. And we love Jake. So Jake Ray is back with us. And if you caught our first conversation, you already know how kind of mind-blowing these insights are, right? So if you're new to Jake's work, get ready, because today's conversation will shift the way you think about the future. And so we have, Jake, he is a certified hypnotist. He is a trained in Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, QHHT, from Dolores Cannon, in past life regression, future life progression, and Anne Jirsch, and really has been inspired by many other hypnotists, healers, and mystics. So Jake said that hypnosis has transformed his life in so many ways, and he loves to help other people, which is what we love about him. And he loves to find these big transformations that happen for the people he comes in contact with. So it's our honor to guide clients through these quantum experiences and to help them connect with their own higher guidance and wisdom, as well as finding healing and deep soul growth through hypnosis. So Jake, he is a very highly gifted QHHT practitioner, and we are going to get started with our conversation. So with that, we want to welcome Jake, and everybody, kind of get ready and take some notes, because we're really going to dive deep into some of this future progression. That okay with you, Jake?
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk the future with y'all.
All right.
We're so glad to have you with us. And hi to everyone in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Stephanie and Ken. Tim was in there. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us.
Mm-hmm.
Jake, I am so excited. So we do have some questions set, but I just wanted to give you a couple of minutes to kind of just, talk a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into some questions.
Sure. Yeah. Well, if you saw the last talk we did, you'll know a little bit about me. I really got my start in QHHT, which is that quantum healing hypnosis technique, and it really focuses on going super deep into your internal psyche, going into that subconscious part of you to access those past life memories. And through my practice, I realized that not just past lives that you can access this way. I went into parallel lives, I went into the future lives, and that was really what opened me up to look more into this future progression and kind of started me on that path. But the deepest, or one of the coolest parts about QHHT, the quantum healing hypnosis technique, is connecting in with your higher self. And that allows you to not only find like this deep inner wisdom, these deep insights into your current lifetime, as well as those other lifetimes that you've lived, really helping you understand like what you're going through, and whether that be looking for information on your purpose or relationships, or the healing part of it is a huge part as well. And so we often find that health problems, whether that be illnesses, ailments, chronic things that you're dealing with, oftentimes have deeper connections either to your current lifetime, earlier in your lifetime, patterns and stuff that needs to be acknowledged in order to be released, or past lives. So it's super fascinating work to do, and I love how each session and each client is something unique, and tailoring those sessions to them really helps to bring about that transformation that I think is the coolest part of this, because no one leaves that session the same as they came in. I mean, you can't come in contact with your higher self. You can't tap into the quantum in this way and stay the same. And so it's really cool work. And I had a couple of those experiences where doing QHHT sessions, which the goal is to go to past lives, I had clients go into the future. And I had a couple clients who went into the future in this current lifetime, and they got glimpses at these possible lifetimes that they might, or these possible timelines that they might embark upon. And, you know, one client, it was about a big move and kind of uplifting her life and moving to a different country. And she was able to see how that played out, and not only see that she was all right and that it worked out for her, and to understand that she was going to be able to make that jump and make those changes and be successful. But we also got a glimpse at some of the challenges that she might face, and she was able to get some insight into how she got into those challenges, and some insight into avoiding them, and what she could do in order to not fall into that. And so with future life progression, and we can get more into this for sure, but it's really about tapping into your future self, getting that hindsight, getting that insight into, you know, what were the challenges you faced, or what were some regrets you might have had, or, you know, what do you wish you had done differently? And then being able to see how that timeline plays out. And so it's kind of mind-bending stuff. It can be a little hard to follow at times, just because, I mean, that's timelines, and that's, you know, trying to understand things from a quantum perspective while also living in this human incarnation. But yeah, that's a little bit about how I got into the future, about what I do. Do you all have some questions?
Yeah, so that was so, and there's actually,
Go ahead.
and there's actually a couple of questions that I could transition into really, really good right now, but I'm going to try and keep this organized, because she hates when I get out of order. But no, like, you know, when you go for, you know, a reading, or you go for a session, right? It's all about, you're talking about the past and the present, right? What's happening, and some guidance and that stuff, and which is great. You can kind of get a great understanding of where you're at. But the future progression kind of flips that on its head, right? Because we're talking about the, you know, future paths, right?
Like possible timelines. Yeah.
Yeah, possible timelines. So with that, that shift in focus, right? That's gonna empower people moving forward. How does that empower people moving forward, as maybe other readings, you know, can't, because they're not talking about the future? So like, what is that shift that happens within the client that can empower them to get more out of what they need to, you know, moving forward?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the biggest things that I noticed between working in the past and working in the future, because it really is different energies, and there's so much value in exploring the past and past lives. You know, oftentimes we have to release and we have to let go of something or a few things before we can move into that future. And so I value the past life work that I do, and I think that it's super valuable for folks. But there's something special about tapping into the future that is different, and it is really it's really empowering in such a real way. Because even if you're talking about like a tarot reading, you know, you go to someone reading the cards, or you can go to like a psychic who can tap into the future for you. You can get some of the same information, right? But it's removed from you. It's from an external source. And so not only are you dealing with their own, you know, their own vibration and their own frequency as far as what they're able to tap into with the future and with the timelines that they're able to look into for you. But it's also, you know, that's the reason that I love hypnosis so much, is because it's such a personal thing, and you as the client, you're immersed in that story, and you're able to see what's going on, whether that be past or future. You're able to tap into that information and that knowledge for yourself. So it's super cool. But you know, bringing it directly to the future and how that works, just the basic fact of tapping into that future and getting that glimpse, getting that sight of that already aligns you more with that future and helps you to kind of orient yourself towards that. And so
Mhm.
a lot of what I do when we're working in our current lifetime, because with future life progression, I can bring you to future lifetimes as well. And there's value in that. But especially when we're working in the current lifetime, it's about helping you to find the best possible future.
Mhm.
And it's helping you to see, what does your future look like on your current path, doing the same stuff you're doing, and then helping you to get some insight into what do you wish you'd changed, what opportunities did you miss out on, or what did you not say yes to because you were scared, and understanding that to then be able to tap into that future lifetime, or that future timeline, I should say, that is that best possible. And that's you not only did you take the chances, but you also got lucky and you were in the right place at the right time. And so
Mhm.
we're able to get that insight to then find that best possible timeline. And once we found that, once we've really connected in with that timeline that you're
Mhm.
excited about, and you're seeing those things. And one of the most common comments that I get when we tap into that best possible future is like, no, that can't be my future. That's not,
Yeah.
I can't live that life, or I can't have that house, or I can't have that relationship. That's not mine. But there's a reason you're tapping into it. And if you're tapping into it, it's close enough that you can attain it. And so when we tap into that, when we find that timeline, then the techniques that I use NLP, or neuro linguistic
Mhm.
programming techniques.
Mhm.
For those who don't know, NLP techniques are essentially like reprogramming your subconscious thoughts, kind of your triggers. And we use specifically the anchoring technique in NLP to help anchor in that future timeline. And so we'll tap into what kind of color does that look like, and help you to associate that color with it, so that then you can tap into that in your daily life. We
Mhm.
can also do like physical anchors, whether you're not, you're putting your fingers together and anchoring it in that way, so that then you're able to tap into that future and continue to kind of reaffirm your path towards that. Because it's all
Yeah.
great to have that session and to connect in, but the biggest thing is, how do you then help yourself to get there? Because you have to take the actions, you have to take those
That's right.
steps in order to get to that future.
And but I don't know the anchoring with the fingers. I don't know too much about that, but I do know that NLP is a very powerful tool.
Yeah.
But what I was interested in too with this is, have you ever got any resistance from a client because they are, I don't know, scared, like they're kind of scared to go, like, I don't want to, I don't know if I should know, or I'm scared to know that success can scare people, or that. So how do you kind of, if you get somebody who's doing that, and you can see that they have a bright future if they can just get out of their own way, how do you kind of work with them to turn them and like kind of motivate them to go like, this is your timeline. This is what you can actually be. Have you ever had that, or how would you turn that so someone could be comfortable in moving forward?
Yeah, I have. And that, I would say, is a pretty common thing, is
Mm.
that fear of the future. And even, it's not always even negative fear. It can be that positive fear of like, I don't even know how I'm going to get there, or do I really deserve that? I mean, there's so many complicated feelings that we can
Mhm.
have about our future. And so part of how we work around that is by kind of helping you get a more of a bird's eye view of your soul's incarnational path, by taking you into your future lifetime. And so we completely bypass this current lifetime where you're, in your own head, you're fearful, you're scared, you're, whatever you're dealing with, that's kind of your roadblock to getting there. We help you jump way past that, and we get you into a future lifetime where there's not that same kind of emotional connection. We're living in these incarnations, and so the one that we're living currently, it carries a lot of weight, and we have our ego wrapped up in there. And so it's nice to be able to step out of that, and then get into that future lifetime where you've already lived this incarnation, you're on to the next. And it's always surprising, the through lines that we see, especially if I'm able to go to past lives with clients, where we can see the past, present, and future, and see that kind of through line, because there always is a through line. And it's sometimes surprising, but that really is the best way that I've found to be able to help someone to see beyond what they're worried about in this lifetime, to see that next lifetime where they're doing something. It could be like I had one session where this client was really fearful about what was going to come up, and they felt like there was a lot of weight on what was coming up in their lifetime. They were stressed and worried about it, and so I took them into their future lifetime, and they saw a lifetime that was totally different than their current lifetime. They were a scientist doing like observation experiments out on a moon on Saturn.
Oh, wow.
Around Saturn, and their main existence was on like a interplanetary ship, and it was like this big old cruiser type thing that carried people, from Earth out to the other planets. And they worked in like essentially the ecosystems on that ship, because they had like, my client described it, they had like a full lake, they had a forest, they had animals and wildlife and stuff like that. So very fantastical, cool existence in the future. And it allowed her to see beyond and see that there was something more, to see that she's going to be just fine. She's going to go on to something really, really cool. And then when we kind of backtracked and we looked ahead in this lifetime, that fear just wasn't there anymore. And she was able to trust what was coming through, and there was still some emotions there, but that fear was gone, and was able to get a clear vision of that. So it's cool stuff.
Yeah, that's really cool. It is cool when you get to see those kind of lives. I was just thinking, one of our regular viewers, I just did a session with him. We had something that was a little similar to that. So I'm wondering if it sounds familiar. But if this is interesting to you and you find out that this is something that you want to look more into, I want to share Jake's website with you so that you can look into booking a session with him. So this is rayoflighthypnosis.com, and he's got his bookings here and some of his services. And so I just wanted to give you guys the web address. Very nice. And
Ray of Light Hypnosis.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I just wanted to kind of give everyone the opportunity to see. Very nice. This is a nice website.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Corbin designed it for me. So thank you, Corbin. That's my husband.
Oh, good job, Corbin.
Good job, Corbin. Anyway, so I just wanted to give everyone that.
I did also update my bookings recently, so it is a lot smoother. It's a lot more straightforward, and I did kind of open up my availability as well. So if you haven't checked out my site recently, go check it out. And of course, I do offer 30-minute free consultations beforehand. If you have more questions, if you want to determine what's going to be the best fit, or where you want to jump in. Because for those not familiar with the hypnosis world, it can be a little overwhelming. You might not know exactly what's what. So I'm happy to answer questions.
Yeah, very cool. It's really super interesting, the work that you do. And it's so fun to get to kind of see these things and go through the experience with everybody. I don't know about you, but mine's not exactly the same as yours. Yours is a little bit different, but it's so interesting to see like who people are and the potential, right? It's exciting. It really is.
Oh yeah, it is. And that's what I love most about this future work, is being able to help people tap into that, and their potential, and to tap into kind of the wildest dreams that they might have, and to see not only like how that plays out and what that looks like, but it's really about helping people also get those stepping stones and those concrete like steps to get there, because that can also be really overwhelming when you're looking at changing your whole life, or changing your career, or moving somewhere, these big events. And so it's really cool being able to access that information, so you can actually get those concrete action points, that get you to that future, rather than just seeing it and then figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And I think that it's a really good tool for people moving forward, things that we didn't think that we even had available to us before. So I think that that's amazing.
Yeah, another thing is, so when you have somebody, right, that you're looking to the future, if there are multiple possibilities. How do you determine which one they most align with, or how does that kind of go together? Because that's going to be a life altering decision, right? If we go, okay, you have a couple of decisions, you're on one road, but this road, you're really aligned with.
Is that how it works? Or
okay, how does that work?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's I can't remember what show this was on. There have been so many live shows recently that I've been watching that have had such good information that sometimes I forget where it comes out. But it was about tapping into the future, and this idea that like your resonance, your frequency, your whatever level you're on is going to determine kind of where you connect and what you connect to. And so there's a limit, I guess, to where we're going and what we're going to tap into within your session. And if you tap into it, it's close enough within your within your field to be able to access and get to. I think about it kind of like the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. Have you guys seen that one?
Mm-mm.
No? Oh, you should watch it. It's great. I feel like you'd love it.
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
Oh yeah.
Is Michelle
I have to
Yao?
look for it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make sure you guys get that because I think you will really like it. But it's all about like timelines and tapping into alternate versions of yourself and getting those strengths and being able to access. But one of the premises of the movie is that you can only jump so far. You can only go so far in that quantum web based on where you are currently. And so like if you try to jump too far, you're not going to get there. It's not going to be successful. And so I think about that. Oh yeah, Corbin reminded me the manifestation piece too, because it's the same thing with manifestation where like you can only you want to reach for something that is, yes, grand and exciting and a reach, but you don't want to reach too far where it's unattainable in this incarnation. And so there's a level of understanding, what where you're at as well to get you there. I do say with the future stuff, it's always on you, the client, to make the decision that you feel best about. And I always emphasize going within and going with your inner guidance and your inner intuition as far as what's going to be best for you. Because I'm not responsible for the choices that you make when you leave my office and you act upon what the information, whatever information comes through. Because you're in the driver's seat of your life, and it's your incarnation to do what you would like with it.
So it seems that after a powerful reading with you, right? You go through this. I'm in a session with you. I get a great future progression reading. It's life altering. It seems like the biggest mistake is not having either the tools or the discipline to take the steps to actually attain it after we speak. That seems to be what the biggest kind of roadblock would be, right? Is someone getting in their own way, not taking the steps they need. But if they don't have the tools, do you suggest like specific techniques that would kind of maybe step by step get them there, or how would they know what to go and do, or how does that work?
Well, part of that's accomplished within the session itself. So we are tapping into that lifetime. We're exploring it. We're getting a sense as to, what you're seeing, what you're feeling, what you're experiencing. And I really tailor my questions and I tailor the session around what your goal is. And so one of the cool things about this is we can look into career and, different job opportunities, or maybe your career change where you're thinking of shaking things up and trying something new. And so with that example, we would look at, what is that best career look like? What are you doing? What does that look like to you? And then part of it is kind of taking a step back, being more of an observer of that and asking that future version of yourself, well, what regrets do you have? Or what do you wish you had done differently with that? And then with that insight, we're able to then switch the timeline and get access to that other timeline that is going to be implementing those changes that were recommended. Beyond that, though, if we, say your future self says that like Reiki is the thing for you and you should really pursue a career in Reiki and becoming a practitioner there. Well, okay, then what does the first steps look like? What do those steps
Mhm.
look like? And so part of my job is asking the most appropriate questions and really getting you as much information as possible. In one session that I had, this client was looking at their career and different options that they had, and one of the things that they saw themselves doing was these sort of workshop courses, and they were pre-recorded things, and and it was tied in with their career, but we were able to ask and get specific titles of these different workshops. And so then that gave her kind of more of a narrowed down focus on what is she actually building. And of course, with anything in the future, you have your free will, and even the smallest of changes can alter that timeline. And so
Mhm.
it's never something where I don't ever describe it as like deterministic in a sense where it's like you're locked into this and you don't have any choice. Like, you always have choices and you always have
Mhm.
opportunities to shift things and change things. But I guess those are a couple different ways that we get you that information to help you get there. The other thing that I would suggest also, and this, I don't typically do this within the future life progression, but within higher guidance hypnosis, which is my own conglomeration of techniques and kind of my
Mhm.
own tailored approach to what I do, we will tap into your higher self, and that's where you can sometimes get even deeper information as far as steps to get there, or roadblocks or limits that you're putting on yourself that need to be broken. And so if you're feeling like there's still more to get into, sometimes things take a few sessions. And even tapping into the future, there can be value in checking back in, say 6 months or a year down the road, to see how have things shifted, how have things
Yeah.
changed, what is coming up now, what information is coming through now that's relevant in helping me stay on track, or if things shifted and is maybe a different path, the correct path. And so it's something where there is some value in returning to this state and tapping in further. But I do my best within the session to get you as much information as possible to help you feel confident in getting that.
I wanted to ask you too. Oh, by the way, I don't know if everyone saw your last live, but it was really, really interesting. And I appreciated your just opening up and being so honest and real. It was really a powerful show. And so I strongly recommend going to your YouTube channel and checking that out. I was I was touched by a lot of the stuff you said, and
Mhm.
it really resonated. So I appreciate you being that open and honest about difficult subjects. It was really cool.
Thank you.
Um, yeah. But that being said, I was wondering, how difficult is it to hypnotize people, and do you find that some people have kind of an unwillingness to allow themselves to open up to that degree? And how often do you run across having those kind of setbacks?
Yeah. I would say that that was a more common thing that I ran into earlier on in my practice. It's not as
Mhm.
often anymore. And and I'm sure you can resonate with this too, Lisa, because you're offering readings now too. But I've found that I attract the clients to me that are either going through similar things that I am, or they're at a similar, belief struggle. So there was some early
Mhm.
days where I was still struggling with my beliefs in all of this and in myself. And so I had more clients at that point. Excuse me, more clients at that point who came in with more of that challenging mindset that um that either weren't willing to go, or weren't in the right place or the right time. And so I had some more of those challenges earlier on. I don't run into it as much anymore. I find that really it's a lot of like me making sure that I'm still doing my inner work, and that I'm centered and focused when I approach the sessions. But I would say that there are there are certainly people out there who may have more of a challenging time, whether it be with the trust piece and letting themselves relax and go. But I also am trained to handle that. And there's in all of the different techniques that I have studied, and all the books that I've read, there's a lot of different ways that that I help you to feel comfortable and confident going into that session. And a lot of it is about making sure that you feel prepared, and that you understand what's going on and what you're stepping into, and understanding how that information might flow to you, especially people who are not regular meditators, or haven't necessarily done a lot of visualization in their life. There can be a lot of misconceptions around visualization, and how that appears, and how that looks, and how that can feel. And so part of my job too is helping you to understand kind of the range of how that information can flow to you, and the different ways it can flow, because that helps you to recognize when that information comes to you.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that too. It's interesting. It's interesting to see how different people would kind of approach it, but it's also interesting, like you said, that it seems like the people who are resonant with you find you, but that's the way that all life works, right? So I guess we shouldn't be
Yep.
surprised.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think once you start paying attention to those, the synchronicities, and once you're listening to what's going on around you and paying attention, you start to see more and more how, the outside is a reflection of what's going on within.
Yeah.
So I just one quick follow-up, but then I have another question about entrepreneurs and kind of the visionary business owners, and how they could take advantage. But if we had that session and I didn't take action moving forward, does that timeline disappear? Does it totally? I mean, like,
Yeah.
did I lose it? Is it done?
I think that's a kind of a tough one to answer. I definitely have I have more experience than most in the timeline arena, but I certainly don't claim to understand it all. And I think that there, I'm reminded of this book that I read, and it's about the soul's journey, or what was it? I can't remember the name of it, but it's Robert Schwartz, and it's something about the soul's, I think the soul's plan. But the premise of this book is this man interviewed people and worked with psychics and mediums to essentially investigate people's pre-life planning sessions, planning their incarnation. And it was fascinating because he explored a lot of different topics that people have some tough feelings about, whether that be illness, death, like death of people close to them, horrible accidents, things that normally we view as pretty negative in like our human scope of things. But one of the things he talked about was the idea of kind of exit points, and how you have these exit points planned, and there is some level of flexibility within your incarnation as you go along to either take that one or not take that one and keep going on. And that's not necessarily always a conscious decision. Oftentimes it's that higher self that makes that decision. It's not our ego or like our conscious mind that's making that choice. But I think about that in the sense of like future timelines, where it might not be that exact timeline, but I don't think that you're not going to miss out on something that's meant for you, is my view.
That makes sense.
And it's something that I've talked with the higher self about a lot, where I have clients who come to me and they're worried that they're off track, that they're off path, they're off mission, that they've missed some opportunity that they should have taken. And every single time, without fail, the higher self is like, nah, you're good. You're just right on time. You just need to trust, and you need to relax, and you need to, follow our advice, and maybe listen and talk to us a little bit more. But like, other than that, you're doing just fine. And so I really think it's something, I think it's something where like, you're not going to miss out on something that's meant for you. And there might be multiple iterations of that. And I think that it's more than likely that there are multiple iterations of that. And it's so much more complicated, I think, than we can even talk about in a 24-hour show, let alone an hour show. But
which one I think it's so, what's great is what you said, it stuck out to me, is that, everybody, it's all different. There's not a cookie cutter approach. And so you really, when, like you're saying, you have to focus in and really be, kind of lined up with you, you guiding it, because, and, one of the things I know, I went through a session, not with Future, but I went through a session, and you have to trust the person you're sitting with to kind of open up and be vulnerable and let go. And so that's what I think that your true power comes from, because of you're always in your heart space when you talk, and just how you present yourself. It just like blows you away how you see you like that. So that, I think, is awesome. And so people are going to have different and complex, it's the future we're talking about. It could be so many different things. So for you to do that, going through those different, what iterations or what they could be aligned with, you have to really, know, kind of really be in that space. I think for me, like, I don't think I'm going to ever do sessions, even because I get nervous with that. I don't know how. I think it's incredible that you can be talking, and then like things change, and you're so open that to serve other people left and no. I just think it's incredible that you do that, because it's an amazing thing to do on the fly. I don't know. I just think it's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely, there's an element of improv to my job that is exciting. It's also, a little nerve-wracking at the start. When I was practicing, I mean, I would get so nervous and so stressed. And but what I've realized is the more that I'm able to tap into my higher self and kind of relax myself and relax my ego and let my conscious mind kind of step aside to a certain extent, I found that my higher self is not ashamed to like step through and help facilitate that session. And that's part of my pre-session ritual, is like calling in my higher self, calling in my guides, making sure that we've got all of the support lined up to make sure that experience for you is exactly what you need at that moment.
Yeah.
Hey, ma'am.
Hey, Emma.
Emma, hello.
So, all right. So I want to get to this. So, entrepreneurs and visionaries, and may have some in the chat, they thrive on seeing the future, right? Before their competition, they seem like they're a step ahead of the game. They're noticing patterns, and that they're actually creating patterns to make their business move. And so how can future progression be a tool for business leaders or just creative minds out there to keep like a step ahead? And have you had experience with these types and saw like they had a great progression and they did really well?
Oh yeah, I mean, it really is, the forward thinking. It's not a new concept for entrepreneurs, for people who are looking to, be innovative and get ahead of the curve. But I think especially right now, especially in this world we're living in, the change is so rapid. Like in a day, everything changes and switches in so many different ways. And so I think that's where this type of approach to future planning, to to innovation, to however you want to look at it, I think that it's so useful and so impactful for now. And Anne Jirsch, who's the woman that I learned this from, she's been doing this for a couple decades now, and she works a lot with businesses and has helped people to, find that innovative product that, is the hot thing in 10 years or in 5 years. And so often with this, we're tapping into the future, but it's not necessarily that, I saw that 10 years down the road, it's going to take me 10 years to get there. It really is about accelerating that path forward. And you might have seen it 10 years down the road, but now you have that information, now you have that knowledge and you have that insight, so you're able to implement that now and get to that future point so much faster. And I think that's one of the coolest things about this, is the acceleration piece, because it's not about getting locked into this timeline that isn't flexible or isn't changing. Just again, like we talked about at the beginning, just by tapping in to that future, you're able to draw it towards you quicker. And especially if you're someone who is committed and focused and you've got this goal in mind, you're going to make that happen super fast. You're going to take those action steps. And I think that it's really cool to be able to tap in that way. And whether it's looking at like product innovation, or looking into whatever your sector of business might be. Maybe it's client work and you're looking to get ahead and see what are people needing in 5 years, like what's that new service that's got everyone excited. Or maybe it's I'm really drawn to like retreats, and I want to figure out the perfect location for that. Where is that going to be, and how do I orchestrate that? And I think a important piece of this to mention is that you're not necessarily always getting every single piece of the puzzle, because part of life is the experience. Part of life is some of that mystery, and there is value in learning those things through experience. And so there are some things that you're not necessarily always going to see when you're tapping into that future timeline. There might be information that you get part of it, but you don't get all of it. And there's a level of trusting the information that comes through, trusting that the puzzle pieces will fall in line. And again, it's the same thing with manifestation. You might not know every single step, but holding that vision, holding that end goal in mind, and really not only seeing it but feeling it, because with manifestation we know that the feeling is so important. And so with that future timeline, if you want to manifest that future timeline to you, you want to know how that feels too. So yeah.
Well, and you're right, the world is moving faster. So it's moving faster, right, with AI, with crypto, with consciousness on a whole, right? Everything's moving faster. So why it's just future progression? Why is it more relevant now than ever? With all these different tools, but still, the future progression seems to be now. It's really coming into a lot of our fields, because I think it's more relevant now than it's ever been. Why do you think that is, with all these other tools out there?
I mean, immediately I'm thinking of the astrology and of Aquarius and the Aquarian season, not season, the Aquarian age that we're stepping into. And I really resonate with that idea. And I think Aquarius is very future focused and very much about innovation and new things, trying things in a different and new way, breaking out of that mold. And so I think some of this is baked into the astrology, and the more that we can see that, the more we can see why it might be coming up. Because, even if we look at hypnosis and the hypnosis field in general, like it's relatively new in its current form, in its current iteration. I mean, people have been doing trance work for, forever. But past life regression is relatively new. I mean, and so I think the future progression is kind of it seems like the natural next step in kind of that evolution of this way of working, of this way of helping people. And so, I mean, just like how I started in past life regression, and I had this spontaneous future incident and was just kind of like, well, that's interesting. And I think that it's just becoming more and more in focus, because again, like those changes are coming so fast, and we're also at this time where we really are focused on what are we building. And some people are definitely focused on what's falling apart and not working, but I think a lot of us and a lot of those watching the show are the ones who are focused on what are we building. And I think that this can be a tool to start seeing some of that and be able to access some of that information to help us get there even faster and more effectively too.
I think too, it's giving us a expanded visualization of how we're expanding and expressing ourselves in, lifetime after lifetime, because we're so used to looking at time on this linear, line about how this kind of works. And I think that allowing ourselves to be open to this future progression is showing us that it may not be linear. It's kind of like all of these things are out there and they're happening, they're in the field. And so we're going to put it in terms that we're used to looking at it and understanding. But, these lives are available for you to tap into, to show us and help us find our larger sense of selves. that we're expanded into and have always been, but we just didn't have the awareness to be allowing of this kind of information to come through. So it feels like we're moving into a space where we can have an expanded view of just who we are and what we're capable of doing.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I've had this idea, this thought coming through quite a bit recently, and I think that we are really being called to approach this incarnation and the soul healing and soul growth that we're doing right now from that quantum perspective, which really
Mhm.
is looking at it as this web that's all happening at once, and it's not this linear idea. And even beyond that, I've had so many clients tapping into cosmic lifetimes, tapping into lifetimes on other planets, in other dimensions. And I think that it's really about this call that we have right now in our evolutionary process to integrate from other places that we haven't necessarily looked at before. And kind of the old wave, Dolores Cannon and others who worked in kind of the earlier years of past life regression, they saw that shift starting to happen where people were less and less going to past lives and more going to the current lifetime, going to alternate lifetimes, or going into the future. And I think that, not that there isn't value still in past life regression, because there is always, room for release, and there are still going to be people who need that tool, right? But I think as a whole, as more of that collective, we are stepping into more of our multidimensionality, and we're stepping more into integrating more of our higher selves, and that requires some connections to be made, and working both backwards and forwards, and side to side and up and down, and in all the directions of the quantum.
Do you find that when you're working with these things, that your perspective has expanded about how you see, you know, reality? And when you answer that, can you share with us in what ways you feel that it's maybe expanded you?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm certainly not the same person that I was when I started out on this journey. And I think the changes are beyond what I am consciously aware of. Because when I'm tapping in this way, I mean, I can feel the difference. And for those of you who work in, the subtler realms, or you work with your intuition, or you work in meditation, like, you can kind of get a sense as to what that is. But there's something different about actually working in under hypnosis, working in that space, and then beyond that, tapping into that higher aspect of us, tapping into those higher selves and having that conversation. And uh, it has truly made me think about reality in a different way. It's made me think about my life and my purpose, and in so many different facets. I mean, I don't know if there's a single part of my life that this hasn't touched in some way, shape, or form. And I certainly, I say this all the time, like, the more that I learn, the more I realize, like, there's so much I don't know. And the more that I learn, the more I realize that there's just an infinite amount of knowledge and information out there that, yes, on a certain level, we're all tapped into already, that Akashic records, that collective consciousness. But from a conscious perspective, we're talking about integrating this in this current incarnation. So I think one of the most foundational moments for me was I mean, this might have been like my 6th or 7th session. And I was still pretty green, still pretty new. And we went through, and this woman, I adore her. She's actually turned into a bit of a friend of mine, but she was like really eager to get in. I mean, constantly like, okay, are we ready to go? Are we ready? I'm ready. Are you ready? And so finally I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to trust that you're feeling it. Let's get into it. We had quite the experience of going to a different planet. She had an alien lifetime come up. That was my first like foray into ETs and this off-world thing. We went to a lifetime in Lemuria where she was a healer and working with crystals. I mean, it was wild, crazy stuff. And then when we got to the point of calling in her higher self and asking them, you know, she was a very clear channel, like the information was flowing beautifully. And we got to the point where I, did my obligatory, like, well, is there anything else that you want to share with us today? Any final words, any final, thoughts? And they launched into a direct message for me. And I don't remember the exact words, but they were like basically saying, keep doing what you're doing. You are on mission. You're doing, this is a part of your purpose. We are so grateful for, the work you're putting in and the energy you put into your sessions. I mean,
That's awesome.
My heart was like racing. I was like shaking. I'm like, what's going on? And it was just such a wild experience to have this higher self speak directly to me and give me that sort of information. And, most of y'all have probably not been in a session talking to the higher self, but you can feel their energy. You can feel the energy shift in the room. You can hear the change in their voice. You can really tell that you're talking to a different facet of this person. And I think that was a moment where I was given not only like encouragement, but one of the other things that they said, because I said something along the lines of like, thank you so much. It's such an honor to work with you. And they said, it's an honor to work with you. And that really caught me off guard, because I'm like, these higher dimensional beings, like they're probably just like, them again. Okay, well, I'll help them out. But no, they're excited to work with us too. And again,
and
like,
love us so much. It's like so
yeah.
crazy. They like love us.
Yeah.
That surprised me. When they're just like excited and like everything you do is like great. That's so cool. Look, Soul's with us.
Soul.
Hello, my beautiful soul. I love you.
Thank you. Love you too.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right?
She's awesome.
Anyway, did you have another question? Because I have a couple more, but I'll let you do your thing.
It's getting close to the hour, but you know what? I just real quick, is the future influenced by mindset and energy, or versus say external factors that we really can't control? Like, so people realize what's more important.
I mean, I would say that your energy and your intention is the most important. I mean, focusing on yourself and what you're doing and how you're doing it, how you're showing up. Because, again, I mean, bringing it back to like you attract what your energy is, what your frequency is. And so if you're in a mindset of, oh my gosh, nothing ever goes right for me, I'm, everything goes wrong, I'm always, getting crapped on by other people, whatever it might be, well, you're going to attract that to you. And it's not about, victim blaming or anything like that. It's more about realizing the power that you have, the power that your thoughts have. And I think it's such an empowering thing, because then you can realize the effect that you have on your external. But at the same time, there is this collective reality that we're building. And there is, especially, when we're tapping into collective events, when we're tapping into, what does the world look like in 100 years? We're working on more of that collective level. And so I really think about, future timelines as like, you have your own future timeline and your own trajectory, but then it also fits within that collective. And so there is a level of, collective intent and collective thought, but that's where our higher selves are working together on that other level where it's beyond just us. And I think it can be overwhelming sometimes to think about the fact that everyone else around us has the same power in their thoughts, but remembering that our higher selves are working together as well. And so we're not alone in this. We're not, we've got that support. And so I think it's a bit of both. I think understanding that you're a part of this larger collective, you're here on this earth to experience this reality, and there's elements of that we're experiencing together. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you don't have the power to shift your energy, to shift your focus, to change your life, because guess what? When I look into the future 5 years or 10 years with clients, I'm not seeing, world war breaking out. I'm not seeing famine in the streets. I'm seeing beautiful futures that these people are building. And so I think it's really important to remember that a lot of what we're seeing right now is just words. It is just it's just thoughts, and it's just a lot of it is tactic. It's fear tactic. It's propaganda. But I think that remembering our own power, remembering our own sovereignty, will help us to remember that we also play a part in building this future. And so,
Right.
what are you going to
Yeah,
focus on, and hold that focus?
Yeah. So it's not really a question, but I wanted to really emphasize the point on, if you can drastically change, if you do have that type of mindset of, say, lack or fear or scarcity, if you can change that to gratitude, right, and abundance, you can drastically change your future. And so it's so important. It's a little tweak, but it's huge. But
it's hard to do sometimes when you're stuck in a lot of 3D stuff. But if you can kind of refocus yourself and just remember, we create it to see it. So, it's kind of like, just a couple more questions, if that's okay. Then we'll get going.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, now that you're doing this work, what is your perspective when people associate with maybe having I just had the word when I was thinking about it, and now I can't think of it, but when they associate with different animals and things as like guidance and stuff, have you seen any information about that in the field? Have you had anything come in where it was like, like when people say like they have like
connection.
Yeah, but what is that called? Do you know what I mean? When they have like
Are you talking about guides or
kind of guides? But I can't believe I lost it. I had it. It was so
totem,
good, and I lost.
like totem animals, or like kind of
Yeah,
like
when they, when people will say like that spirit animals and things like that. Have you seen any?
Sure. I mean, I've run into all different kinds of beings and
Yeah.
life forms in my work, and I guess I haven't had a ton of interaction with like spirit guides or like animal guides in
Mhm.
that sense, but I have had clients who were animals. And I had one really fascinating session where a client was a deer, and we explored a couple different scenes in that deer lifetime, and it was really wild. I mean, check it out on my YouTube channel, because I did a video on this. It was really wild, the way that her voice shifted and changed, and she was like talking like really high and fast, like a deer would be nervous.
Wow.
But after that, when she died in that deer lifetime, she essentially like assimilated back into kind of the collective web of nature energy. And she described floating above the body, but then she was like, oh, but now I'm in the tree. And she could feel the
Wow.
tree, and she went from the tree down into the roots, and she was like flowing through the ground, and then she went into the water, and she was like, whoa, the water feels different. And I was like, oh, tell me about that. And she's like describing these experiences of kind of flowing through the energy field of
Wow.
nature. And it
Interesting.
was a really cool exploration of the collectiveness of like nature energies, and really seeing how everything is connected, and you have this individualization that takes place, but you still have that connection to the whole. And so definitely animals, and they're a part of this whole thing with us. And I think that oftentimes, we're trained in this culture and in this society, and specifically in the West, but in a lot of places in the world too, that animals are lesser than, they're these lesser beings that, they have less consciousness going on than we do. And I would say they've got more consciousness going on, because they're connected to it all.
Yeah.
And so I think understanding that, one, like their souls and the way that their energies show up is unique, but then we also have, I mean, these other levels of reality, and these other realms and these other dimensions. And so that's where we can have some more of those like animal spirits, or like, people talk about them as like more like a spiritual like idea of the animal, and it's almost like that higher self version of that animal, in a sense, is how I've kind of looked at it. And so certainly there is room for tapping into that within a session. And especially when we're talking with the higher self, that's oftentimes when beings come through, whether that be spirit guides or I've had like other entities come through. And I had one client who spoke light language for a good 30 seconds, 45 seconds, just like spit it out. And then like her voice went back to, her normal voice. And it was a message from a white Tara, which I'm not super familiar, but I understand like the deity side of that. So my long reply to your question there.
Wow.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I was just curious about it. And I did run out of time to go. I just remembered I have to go pick up my little one. So we're going to have to cut it short. But we'll definitely want to have you back.
Yeah.
Because I have more questions. I have a lot more questions. So, but we appreciate it. I want to share with everybody one more time your website, so that if anyone wants to book a session with you.
Yeah, it's a 30-minute consultation that he's providing. That's awesome. Where you can get some more in-depth questions for yourself answered and see if you can move forward with it.
Yeah. So check that out. And Jake, it was so nice to have you and spend time with you. We really enjoy having you on.
Yeah, I love spending time with y'all, and it's always fascinating conversations. You guys always come with great questions, and it's always great to spend time with Soul Family here and in the chat. So thank you all for spending the time with us and for listening. And yeah, it's great stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we will have to schedule something. Maybe we can do this again next month or something like that.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Great. Yeah. This is so interesting to me. It's like it's kind of like it could go so many questions. I'll have you on for about 4 hours. You better be careful.
I love it. I love it. I mean, especially with the future, there really is, because we're at the beginning of this modality. I mean, it's relatively new in the scope of things, and so I feel like there's a lot of room for exploration. And I've even been having some ideas of like how I might be able to work with this in unique ways, and it's going to be cool to see how the future plays out, because really it is full of possibilities. And once you start tapping into it, you start to see really the unlimited possibilities that are out there. And it's really cool stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a great. Thank you for being so open. Yeah, we love you. And
all
say,
right. Bye, y'all.
Corbin, take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.